Hello, aspirants. Welcome. Today, we're diving into a really critical topic for your GS3 economy paper, the performance of the Indian automobile industry in the financial year 26. Now, we're not just going to look at this as news. Think of this as a complete case study, covering everything from industrial growth and export strength all the way to the pressures of global geopolitics. So let's get right into it.
Right. And here's how we're going to break this down, and you'll notice the structure is very much like a well-written mains answer. First, we'll put the milestone into context. Then, we'll decode the actual data. After that, we'll analyze what's driving this growth, look at the challenges ahead, and finally, and this is the most important part, we'll connect it all directly to your UPSC syllabus.
So what is the big story here? Well, the headline is this. For the first time in 7 years, the Indian auto industry has hit its highest ever wholesales in a single financial year. After facing some really tough times recently, this is a major turning point. It signals a strong economic recovery and a real sense of industrial momentum.
And look, this isn't just our analysis. This comes straight from Shailesh Chandra, who is the president of SIAM. That's the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers. Remember, for your mains answer, using a quote like this from an authoritative source is a fantastic way to add weight and credibility to your points.
Okay, so let's get into the hard data. This is what we're calling the velocity of the industry's performance. And I want to be very clear here. For your mains answers, being able to quote precise data points is exactly what separates a good answer from a great one. So pay very close attention to these next few slides.
The main number is just staggering, 3.47 crore units. That's the total number of vehicles produced. Now, this figure isn't just about sales, you see. What it really tells you is something about the huge scale of India's manufacturing capacity and the sheer level of economic activity.
All right, let's switch gears to export performance. Passenger vehicle exports went past the 9 lakh unit mark, which is a really solid growth of 17.5%. This is a very clear sign that Indian-made cars are gaining more and more acceptance and are becoming more competitive on the global stage.
And then you have the two-wheeler segment, another star performer for sure. A record 51.8 lakh units were exported. That's a growth of an impressive 23.4%. This really underscores India's dominance in this particular manufacturing space, and of course, it's a huge component of the Make in India story.
So let's just put that all together. This table sums up that export surge, and you can see the growth is really strong across the board. Passenger vehicles up 17.5%, two-wheelers up 23.4%, and just look at three-wheelers, an incredible 50.1% jump. This data gives you a fantastic, comprehensive picture of our export strength.
Okay, so we have the what. Now for the why. What exactly caused this incredible performance? And this is so crucial for the mains exam, right? It's never enough to just state the numbers. A top-scoring answer needs to dig deeper and analyze the underlying factors, the why that's behind the what.
So let's break it down. Domestically, you had a couple of big things happening. Positive sentiment from the GST reforms and also several repo rate cuts during the year, which really helped. Then, looking externally, a weaker rupee made our exports a lot more competitive, and at the industry level itself, Indian manufacturers offered a wider range of high-quality products that found new customers, especially in markets like Sri Lanka and several African nations.
All right, but every good story has a catch, doesn't it? And for a balanced, nuanced answer, you absolutely have to discuss the other side of the coin, the challenges. This is the volatility part of our discussion. Showing that you understand this complexity is exactly what the examiners are looking for.
And this quote from the source article really gets to the heart of the problem. There's a serious concern here. The future outlook, as it says, is clouded, mainly because of the ongoing conflict in West Asia and the potential economic consequences.
The source material itself is giving you this dual narrative. On the one hand, it's a celebration of a major milestone, but on the other, it's giving a very strong warning about what might be coming. Understanding this duality is absolutely central to analyzing this entire issue properly.
So what does this risk actually mean in practice? Well, first, the conflict could lead to really volatile prices for commodities and fuel, which are critical inputs for the auto industry. Then, that could increase freight rates, making everything more expensive. And all of this eventually trickles down, putting pressure on domestic demand and, impacting the national economy as a whole.
Okay, let's bring this all home now. This is probably the most critical part of our entire discussion. How do you take all this information and actually apply it directly in your exams, both for the mains and for the interview? You need to be constantly asking yourself this very question. Whenever you study a topic from the news, you have to actively map it back to your syllabus. Remember, this isn't just about knowing current affairs. It's about having a powerful, dynamic, real-world example to illustrate those static points in your syllabus.
Just look at where this case study fits in. You can use it when you're talking about Indian economic growth, the effects of liberalization, industrial policy, even topics like infrastructure and investment models. The auto industry is a fantastic example for all of these, so make sure you jot these down and really think about how you'd weave this example into an answer.
And finally, let's leave you with some food for thought, especially for those of you getting ready for the interview stage. Imagine you're in the interview and you're asked a question like this. It's not just testing your knowledge, it's testing your ability to think of policy solutions. They want to see if you can think like a policymaker. This kind of forward-looking analysis is what will truly help you excel. We'll leave you with that thought. All the very best.